Welcome to Multiple Offers, a real estate show with competing perspectives. Today we are talking about seasons of real estate.
Put that coffee down.
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
How'd you get the gig? Oh, they were hiring. It was only a 2-week course.
I will sell this house today.
What are you, some kind of real estate agent?
Oh, he's a realtor. There is a difference somehow.
This is Multiple Offers, a real estate show.
All right, guys, it is episode 31.
We're in our 30s.
We're in our dirty 30s. We're getting close to the end of the year here. Later in the episode, we're going to start talking about some seasonal changes that happen in the market around this type of year. We're going to go through some stories and some questions. Matt, I think's got some news for us today. But first off, Jer, how you doing?
Doing all right. I'm feeling a little sick, Jeff.
I'm going to inch away.
Yeah, good thing we're not sharing a microphone. Yeah, I don't know if
I was licking your cup earlier. I guess that was a mistake.
It's just business as usual. I don't know. We're talking about seasons of real estate, and I don't know if I feel like I think it's officially a cold. I wasn't sure if it was just sort of the weather and it felt kind of down, but it definitely feels like a cold. But
I can hear it in your voice.
I've got this burning sensation in my throat, and I've got this. It's like this spray. It's I'm going to show it to you. No one else can see it, but it's called Chloroseptic. Just been spraying this on, and it's been providing.
You spray that down your throat,
basically, and then you spit it out. It's cherry flavored.
Have you ever tried a neti pot?
No.
Can we not do this?
Do you know what a neti pot is?
Yeah.
What is it, Matt?
It's the grossest thing ever, but it works when you're all stuffed up. It's like a teapot that you pour the water down one nostril and then it pours out the other.
That sounds awful.
And only water comes out the other end, Jer.
Yeah, and
sounds gross.
And it clears out your sinuses. It's amazing.
I don't have
disgusting.
I don't have sinuses. It's just a weird throat thing.
Yeah.
But,
I totally didn't mean to make Matt uncomfortable with my neti pot.
Matt, this is radio, Jeff. Like, people are listening and they're trying to visualize what's happening. You said neti pot, and now they're actually picturing it. Why did you do that to them?
It's theater of the mind.
Yeah, that was mean. Apologize to the listeners.
I'm sorry, listeners.
Do you guys both have these things?
No, my brother swears by it. I won't touch one.
I had, this is going to get gross, but I had a nasal infection years ago that I could not get rid of, and then somebody told me to do it, and they work. Like once you've gone neti pot, you'll never go back.
Can you just use a regular teapot?
No, because you could, but the important thing is there's like a solution that you put in the water. You're not just pouring water down your nose.
It's like salt water or something.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, good for the inventor of that.
Yeah. So, Matt, now that I've disgusted you completely, how are you, sir?
I'm fine.
It's not sick yet. It's coming though.
I've been almost sick for like 3 weeks, but I'm kind of just enjoying this show today because I thought I wasn't going to be here.
Yeah, this was a nice surprise. We thought we were doing it without you.
Yeah, and then last second I had a whole day of business scheduled that was postponed until tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm coming in really unprepared, which is kind of fun.
Oh, that's out of character.
Yeah,
for you too.
and I feel like I don't have to be ashamed of that at all. So I'm just kind of a passenger. I'm gonna let that happen.
Nice. But you did manage to get a news story.
I found a news story.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, that's great. I had a little bit of rage last night filling out, not real estate related actually, but filling out my daughter's preschool form. Jerry, you haven't had to do this stuff yet, have you?
Like regular rage?
Regular rage, yeah. Have you filled out a preschool form for Rosie?
We did a whole daycare application thing.
No, she's only in daycare.
Okay. Matt, I'm sure, has been through this. We got the questionnaire, and the questions on this thing are so stupid. My daughter is 2. One of the questions was, what special skills does your child possess?
So that is more of a daycare or preschool thing than actual school. But
right.
Yeah, I saw that junk from age 2 to 5.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're little tiny children. Like,
well, Rachel's like legitimately stressing over it. She's like,
How do we answer this?
How do we answer this? I'm like, well, her special skills are falling down the stairs in her car and pooping herself. Like she doesn't have. She's 2. She doesn't have skills.
The questions are ridiculous.
Yeah.
I used to just look at them and be like, okay, look at it through the eye of the person who's going to be with my kid every day. What do they want to know? Because you have 2 kids. You know that they're very different from each other.
They are.
So nobody can
Yes.
make any assumptions about what their interests are. So the idea is ignore the question and just tell them how they can be helpful to your kid. This kid likes books. This kid likes cars. Whatever it is.
So I needed Fact Matt with me last night because Rachel was trying to seriously fill out the form, and Rachel's personality is she just stresses about these things. And I was just angry and answering stupid.
It's all sarcastic answers.
Oh yeah. Like, yeah, tell her she's learning Mozart's Fifth Symphony. Like, what are we talking about? Special skills.
Her goals are staying alive.
The questions used to be, I imagine, a lot more deliberate, like the way I just framed it. But
Right.
we've turned into this funny Instagram world where it needs to sound like it's a whole lot more
Right,
than
yeah.
it is. Right?
That makes a lot of sense.
You're sending your kid to a special institution that thinks your child is special.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, look, I get it. Your daycare, you can teach my kids some stuff. Okay. What are you hoping you get out of this year? I don't know. I hope she knows how to like wash her hands before snack.
Yeah. I hope she realizes that there are other children in the world.
And then I don't get called in for a meeting. That's pretty much all I'm phoned for. Just don't call me in from work. You do your job, I'll do mine.
They were like, what 6 qualities best describe your child? And you know, Rachel's like, bold, curious, adventurous. And I'm like, baby. So I hope nobody from the preschool is listening because I might have just tanked Arya's application. So before we get in talking about seasons, I think, Matt, you've got some news for us, right?
Let's talk some news.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
I got a news flash for you, Walter Cronkite.
I am enlightened.
Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
This is Multiple Offers, a real estate show.
I found a news story, and I'm curious what you guys think about it, just because it's not like real estate news like we usually see about stats or different market forces. This is just one fancy property, and the news wanted to talk about it. So it's an Arthur Erickson designed home. It was in the late 70s, and it's being described in this article as what is, quote unquote, his greatest masterpiece, or what was it?
Most complete.
Most complete masterpiece, Arthur Erickson's.
So he has incomplete masterpieces.
I imagine sometimes his clients ask him to do something, maybe, and he's like, "That's not the way I would have done it."
Okay.
Now this one also, all of the furniture in the home was designed specifically to accommodate the house, and it was all done in cooperation with the homeowner, the builder.
How old is the home?
I think it was finished
1988.
Okay.
Was it 88? I thought it was like 70s.
I think it was like number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an 80. It's just after Expo. That's why it looks like an Expo 86
I'm sorry, you're
pavilion.
right. Yeah, 88.
I think the reason why they're calling it the most complete is because it was top to bottom his design, and
he had full control.
Like all the furniture was done to match the house. Like it's just the full meal deal. The flaw I see with this is probably going to be so controversial. It's a very 90s-y sort of design, maybe a little bit deco, like lots of glass blocks, things that people hate in like any property you sell nowadays. Someone would want to gut the place.
So this isn't like buying a home. You're essentially buying a
piece
work
of art. Yeah, you don't take like a Picasso or something or a group of 7 and be like, you know what, they really missed. They should have added a cabin there. Let's
Right.
redo this a little bit. Like whoever buys it, they shouldn't touch it.
Is there hardwood under those carpets?
It's under those glass blocks.
Yeah.
It's the original owner that's selling it too, and the original
Wow.
owner was 100% invested in every aspect of this build. So, but I mean, the article itself even says, like, is the house going to stay? It's in the British properties. It's on a big piece of land.
And it's not like these heritage houses where it's
it has no protected status. So there's a bit of a question mark that goes with that. Now the price tag says you're paying for this house.
I can see why this made news because I'm intrigued. like that's an interesting question.
Yeah, and I mean Arthur Erickson obviously is an amazing sort of name to ever talk about in the region, and to see something that he would consider his most complete work is worth talking about, and it's on the market. So it's funny to see that of all of the properties we see day to day and throughout our entire careers, the rare few that when they go for sale on the market, it's a news story.
Yeah.
I remember when Roberto Luongo's condo went up, it was in the news.
Yeah, but that's a very different situation than this, because that's about who owns the property.
Yeah.
Although I'd read a story about the condo that Roberto Luongo built.
Well, and usually stuff like this, it's kept quiet in a sense, right? Like
right.
The really wealthy people who didn't earn their wealth by being a celebrity prefer to be unknown.
Right.
They prefer to be anonymous. So these things don't come out until now. There's no choice. You have to put it on the market to advertise it, and we all hear about it. So it's in the news.
Do you think if this had been a year ago, this would have just got privately sold?
Well, it maybe could have, except that they would have been maybe a bit scared to sell it privately because those most excited buyers wouldn't appreciate the house.
Okay.
Right? So,
yeah.
Anyway, it's always funny when a certain house hits the news, and I just hope it stays. I mean, as much I don't disagree with Jeremy. Like, there's some elements to it where you go, this isn't exactly how people would want to see these houses done, but I think a lot of people, the sentiment is pretty strong that you don't want this house to get removed.
Well, and just like there's a big crowd of people who want to buy an old Queen's Park heritage home, there must be a large population that wants an Arthur Erickson home. Like that's gotta exist.
Yeah. Now, a new build out in the British properties right now, something on a big piece of land like this with a brand new house is maybe, now it depends on how it's designed, what the views are like, but it can be anywhere from 10 to let's say $14 million.
Okay.
Roughly. This is kind of a bigger piece of land though. Maybe 10 to 15. What do you think the price tag on this could be, Geoff? Obviously, well, I'll just tell you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
okay.
In keeping that in mind, a brand new house, this one, $16.8 million.
So you're saying there's like a 50% bump on the price or so.
And less than 5% of homes for sale in West Van are selling right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's unlikely that it's going to be sold really just for the land because there's such a premium to pay.
No, at that price, you're buying the ability to tell your friends and family that you bought a piece of history. That's you don't pay that amount of money to develop it.
I sure hope not.
I mean, you might not just pay that amount of money, period, the end. They might just not get it.
The
West Van market is so weak right
and
now.
I don't think it's his most popular style that most people think of and appreciate. Like it doesn't even really feel very like West Coasty.
It's not his sort of trademark West Coast modern.
So you could say you own an Arthur Erickson designed home, built home, but
it's got a lot more curves than he usually works with.
Yeah, it's not. You wouldn't look at it and be like, "That's Arthur Erickson."
For the listeners, how would you describe the typical Arthur Erickson home?
Well, concrete, square, angles, not necessarily lots like that. One's got lots of radiuses and curves and things like that. So
yeah.
Yeah, essentially everything we see today that looks sort of straight, boxy, has some wood timbers, a little bit of you know cedar trim here and there. I mean, it's all rooted in his best work from the 60s and 70s, which is actually kind of weird because I forgot this. Erickson designed like the SFU campus.
Oh, you are that's true.
Which is just lauded for being, just feeling like a prison.
Yeah, it's like a dungeon.
But was, modern concrete. So he's got obviously quite a broad portfolio, but this is one of them. Made the news.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
You decide your own level of involvement.
Well, I guess this is a case where we'll have to agree to disagree.
I don't agree to that.
Neither do I.
Wrong.
National debt.
Wrong.
You're not advocating.
Wrong. With that money,
Wrong.
lost one.
Wrong. Very nice words, but happens to be wrong.
You're listening to Multiple Offers, a real estate show.
So we're coming into the holiday season, and I'm sure, have we talked on the show, Matt, about how there's a real seasonality to real estate?
I think it's come up a little bit here and there, but we've never really broken it down.
We talked about like average markets, but I feel like since 2008, it hasn't quite been.
I like to
too
talk
average.
about, to people who don't understand, how it kind of follows the school year.
We've talked about this
We
because
have,
you've said the
right?
school year thing on the show.
Yeah. So we're coming now into the holiday season. Pop quiz, Matt. Any guesses on what episode?
No, I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
Do
Go
deals
back-
still exist in real estate?
If you want to listen to that, go back through all of our episodes. But we're coming into the holiday season. When you go into Starbucks, you can get an eggnog latte, a peppermint latte.
Is that how you know it's the winter market?
Winter
Christmas
is
market?
coming officially. Yeah.
What latte are you buying?
When pumpkin spice lattes stop and peppermint mocha lattes begin.
Eggnog and yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Starbucks has officially given us the go-ahead that we're going into the Christmas season. And real estate typically really slows down at that time of year. So we were kind of just thinking that it would be good to have a conversation of, what does this mean? If you're a buyer, is it a good time to be buying? If you're a seller, should you be holding off, or what should you do? Do things still sell at all? Yeah, and one thing I did want to touch on just very briefly, October's sales numbers were nothing, like, I don't want to get people's hopes up. They were not amazing by any sense, but one thing when I was looking through the stats of last month is there were more sales in October, just a handful, than there were in September. And normally that's flipped. Normally September is a busier month for condo sales.
I don't know about that.
Well, it...
Is that what the stats say?
I do believe stats back me up on that there's usually a little surge and that October goes down, but I could be wrong.
I think it's correct that there's a surge. There's a surge
Yeah.
of listings in September that turns into actually more sales.
Yeah,
typically
right after Labor Day.
So, but there's more sales actually in October versus November. But then it's a very steep sort of drop off. Because the inventory has to build, the activity builds through September and October. I think it's probably pretty interchangeable from year to year.
It may be, and I'm going to put that on pause for just one second.
Yeah, I'm ruining your point.
And no, that's okay. I appreciate being challenged. The one thing that it doesn't fit the narrative with is the market is continuing to fall.
Oh, definitely. Can't disagree with that.
Now, that's why I wanted to put the little caveat in there of like, don't lose your mind. It wasn't like we're a year ago or anything. But there definitely was, and I think part of that is interest rates. But what's going on? If you guys, let's start with sellers. If you guys are talking to a seller today who wants to put their home on the market, what is the advice that you're giving to them?
You need to wait until Christmas is coming, or sorry, holiday is coming, and probably the New Year. I mean, a lot of times I'll tell people just wait to see what. Well, sometimes the market starts right in January. Like we've had it where a couple weeks into January, you're calling those people that maybe just missed the boat for their listing, and in the fall market it wasn't ready for whatever reason. And oh crap, we need your type of product right now. There's buyers out there and it's not available. So sometimes that can happen early in January. Sometimes it happens in February. Sometimes later.
Yeah, I mean, as a generalization, as we come into the end of November, the general advice is going to be this: you're not coming into the best time to be on the market, but it really depends on your objective. And so there are going to be a lot of good reasons to actually continue to list your home for the next 3 weeks. Here we are right now. We got one more week left in November. There's still a lot of good reasons to list your home, but you have to have a very clear discussion with somebody who's looking out for you.
What would you say is a product right now that you're like, we could probably squeeze this on and get it sold? You're not moving probably until January or so, but we can get it on.
Every entry level condo.
I've got one entry level townhouse and one entry level condo that I launched this week. And when we were going through the timeline, I was telling them like I'm not of the opinion yet that we're at the don't bother. but we're getting so close. And my advice to both of them when we talked a couple weeks ago was that it was this week or we wait.
Yeah, we're right on that line.
And are you thinking sub 400s for entry level? What you would describe as entry level?
No, both of the townhouse is just over 6, but it's a townhouse, so I mean that's an entry level townhome. The condo might not be right to say it's entry level. It's new. It's a new 2-bedroom condo, and it's going to be it's on the market as well, just over 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For what's available in the 300, for the 300s, but up to around 400, they still seem to be selling fairly well. So
yeah, anything under 4 for sure is, I think, still busy. There's lots of people waiting.
I mean, this is a bit anecdotal, but I mean, for me, it kind of translates out to every year. But the clients I'm working with right now, as far as buyers, if they haven't bought right now, they're still hoping for more inventory and choice.
Yeah.
Like they're still ready to be out there and looking. The only reason why we ever give the advice to a seller to not go on the market is because no one's going to come look at it.
Right.
And I mean, at this time of year, there's still people who are like, no, I got a good 2-3 weeks left in me where I'm very happy to keep looking. I understand that when I move into it, it will be next year.
Yeah.
But I would like to make a decision before, I actually get into full holiday mode. And mentally, I mean, most of the population shuts down by about mid-December, right? And that's really what we're trying to line things up for.
Yeah, I think the last 2 weeks of December are definitely nothing's happening. And the first 2 weeks of January, it's not a specific month, but there's almost a month of time where nobody's head is in the game.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of getting anything even like completions around that time because I'm like, is anybody even at land titles? I don't know what's going on.
You wouldn't necessarily be listing a detached house right now.
Depends on the goal. There could be a good reason to.
If there's some, you're meaning if there's something for them to go into or the right product is out there.
Well, because if they don't list it now, and the whole reason to delay is to try to get a specific, like, strong price or strong look at it, I mean, we're pushing that to the middle of January. That's nearly 2 months from now.
One thing that's different this year, so I was talking to one client who's not able to make that date of this week, and they just said, okay, you know what? We'll get it all ready, and we'll list it 2 weeks into January. The fear I have in the back of my mind is, what if the market continues to fall and the market falling outpaces the seasonal boost that you would get? I also had another client who was thinking about pulling their home off the market that hasn't sold and doing renovations. And that really scared me. Like, oh, you're going to drop like 50 grand into this place and then list it in the spring. And, the listed in the spring traditionally has been a very strong, solid idea. I'm nervous about that plan right now, though, just because we don't know what's coming.
No, we don't. So I right now just try to focus on what is it you're trying to achieve with this move, right?
Yeah. I feel good about the spring.
Yeah?
Yeah. You don't?
It's not that I don't feel good. I don't feel good recommending for people to wait.
No, it's way too early to wait right now.
Yeah.
There's still time. I'd put anything on the market right now. I mean, there are buyers who are looking. The only reason not to is because you think no one's going to come for a showing. Because the price, the value you should expect from selling any property you own right now, don't expect it to be any better between today and the end of January.
Right.
And even by the end of January, that's just on a wing and a prayer. Right? Like that's really not happening either. It's the market tends to actually increase in value according to seasonality by late February or March. But inventory starts to come back on in January. And the only reason why people wait till January is because they'll actually get eyeballs on the listing. You'll still get eyeballs today. So that's what I'm getting at. I mean, it's not about price. It's just about getting people through the door. And then the other part, if we're talking about sellers, is just their own personal life and inconvenience. That's a huge part of why nobody wants to be on the market after December 15th. They're like, guys, I don't want to be on the market. I want to be doing family stuff.
Oh, that's actually a really good point. Is part of 100% I agree. You don't want people coming through your house, and your in-laws are coming for the holidays. You're busy enough getting it ready for them and to worry. Yeah, 100%.
And we've all had deals like right up to like Christmas time. I can't remember it exactly, but I feel like I've had it even just like a few days before.
Yeah, I negotiated a deal
subjects.
December 31st, or sorry, December 23rd. I negotiated the offer.
Yeah, I mean, houses do sell in that time. Just the volume is.
And you get people too, and this happens that it's just you get someone who has money, they work a ton, and their one break in the year is around Christmas time. Like Matt and I were talking about, I think the corporate side of things, or maybe that's America. I forget. We were having a conversation a while ago, whereas that industry just kind of shuts down. There's not too much going on, and so people all of a sudden are free to go and start looking at properties.
I was talking to an agent in Florida who their busiest times are summer and winter, because when all the people who are not looking at places here, they're out there, and if they want to buy their vacation property, they're going to do it while they're out there and they can physically look at them.
Yeah, it's kind of like the agent who I worked with where I have my cabin.
Yeah.
You know, I felt bad going there like on a long weekend to see the place. Oh, I'm sorry you're showing on the long weekend. He's like, this is when I have to do all of my work because everybody comes from out of town to come see these places.
Oh, interesting.
So he has to work all of the holidays because people come to him to see properties. It's exactly like that, right? So if that's the case, then we talk about how a seller doesn't want their home on the market sort of nearing the end of December just because it's intrusive on their personal life. So that's where we start to run into that, where today if we list a property, you mentioned that, Geoff, like you're listing properties this week.
Yeah.
They've got, 3 weeks? And if it doesn't work out, one out of those 3 is probably just taking it off the market?
I don't think we'll pull it off the market. But what does change tactically is right where you're at the point where if we haven't sold, where maybe it's time to think about a price reduction. I would say you actually almost want to wait a little bit longer. Like I would never do a price reduction in between Christmas and New Year's because so many people are going to miss it. You're going to lose all the buzz that you generate from getting that price reduction. I checked the stats, by the way, Matt. September and October, traditionally the last few years in New West and kind of the cities around it, very similar number of sales. Sometimes there's a drop, sometimes there's not. Inventory tends to drop because what you said, there's that massive boost, right? Everybody's waiting for Labor Day to put their place on.
There you go.
So just to go back to that. So I'll concede that the point was, I don't think I was wrong, but it wasn't as strongly as I was maybe wording it. And it is weird for it to be up.
Well, considering all of the just the rhetoric around the market softening, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely the strongest part of what you're saying. So with your listings, they're probably going to keep them on the market. That comes to a conversation I have with all of my buyers when we start to get to coming into the middle of December and they're still interested.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there isn't much inventory on the market. And you're right. A lot of people will either pull their property and just take it off the market and relist in January, or there haven't been very many new listings for the last 3 weeks as we come into the middle of December. But those who stay on the market, who know they will be inconvenienced through their personal life and all the rest of it, they're on the market for a very clear reason.
Well, buyers definitely feel that way. I do hear you there. It's tough, right? Because there's only a few sales in December, but you're not going to be one of them if you come off the market.
Well, that's it. And I'm not saying that they're entirely desperate because they're still on the market, but what they're indicating is, I'm interested in selling. I'm not just dipping my toes in and hoping somebody gives me like a higher price than the market should, because 20% of the listings out there, they're kind of like that. It's, if somebody brings me essentially over market value, I would sell. Those people tend to not just let their listings sort of linger. The ones who are on the market over the holidays are like, I'm interested in selling.
Or maybe they're away on vacation and they don't mind their realtor working over the holidays. I hear what you're saying though, for sure. Jared, what are your thoughts on, like, do you like to pull listings off kind of mid-December, or what's your recommendation?
I play it by ear. Just depends on what's happening, what kind of activity level. But I get buyers that, like I mentioned, that want a tour that, you get some people that are just bargain hunters. The thing is, for buyers, the flip side is that there's not it's the selection's kind of been mulled over already. It's not usually the best stuff that's out there. It's overpriced a lot of times.
Because there isn't the new inventory coming on.
Yeah, so it's kind of a little stale. So for some of my investor guys, there can be some good deals to be had. The other agents' phone's not ringing. They're not getting the showings. I mean, it comes with the time of year.
So is December a good time for a lowball offer?
Yes. I mean, it doesn't mean it'll go anywhere, but it's sort of a good general time to say, I have a better shot with it now than any other time.
Timmy could really use a bike for Christmas.
Well, I find even like with sellers, they hit a bit of a wall.
Yeah.
Where they've been really holding the fort for a couple months. Let's say the place has been on the market a couple of months and they're like, I'm not going to flex a lot. I can wait till next year. It's fine. Don't worry, guys. But if you just bring them an offer, they say, oh, well, this means I don't have to think about this anymore through the rest of the holidays. And
right.
I don't have to think about it for next year and start planning all this stuff. Oh, yeah, that sounds pretty good.
And to answer your question, it's the New Year is always a new a relist, fresh relist. Just depends on when it's coming off, whether there's a break in between there.
So if you have a listing throughout December, you are going to relist it no matter what.
100%.
Talk to. I mean, I understand why, but talk to our audience who might not know
just
the nuances
to refresh
of why.
it. You got new eyes. Oftentimes, there's a new, just like how with Labor Day, you have new buyers that are coming on.
Yeah,
new listings. It's a refreshed market. So why not do another full push with the listing? Get it sent out to all the buyers that have searches set up. New groups of open houses that are happening, so you get that new listing, get the fresh open house, get fresh eyes.
Yeah, and you got to get past that sentiment of why didn't it sell?
Right. Yeah.
Why has this listing been on the market for 200 days or what have you?
Dad always thinks January is a fantastic time to be for new buyers, specifically because a lot of people set a New Year's resolution of this is the year we're gonna buy a home.
Yep.
Like it's
well, that's how the seasonality of our market starts every year.
Yeah,
is people spend the holidays planning, saying, "Oh, this is it. We're going to move this year. This is the plan.
Yeah,
we just got to get out of holiday mode, get some inventory on the market, and we can start looking."
Well, and Rach and I, the first time we bought, we did that. We went away for the holidays. We were able to sit around and talk. We thought, hey, let's take a hard look at our finances while neither of us are looking. I think we can afford this. and by February, we'd bought in our first place. Like, it totally happens. So maybe not the best time to be selling because there's less people, and the people who are buying think that you're in trouble. Is that what I'm hearing?
It doesn't mean it's not the best time to sell because it depends on what you're trying to do with it once you sell it.
It's suboptimal.
Well, it can be really good.
Yeah.
Like I'm representing a buyer right now in a transaction, but I'm looking at it from the seller's perspective. Like, we made an offer and we said, okay, sellers, like, we know you don't love what this offer is.
Right.
But there's a ton of product sitting out there right now for you to go buy at a good price. You try to hold out till January, you don't know what you're looking at and all the rest of it. And you've been on the market for 2 months. You think you're going to get a better price in January. Probably not. What you know right now is there's a lot of inventory. So the money you get now may not be as much as you were hoping for, but it might go farther than you could ever be able to make it go. So there's that part that's kind of, lends itself. Now we're still in November. That's
Right.
a harder argument on December 12th.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks into December, we're in trouble. Might be a good time to write those subject to sale offers, because maybe you've got a way better chance of them not getting bumped. Well, somebody else isn't going to come along and knock your offer out.
So I don't think sellers, anyway, your question was like, are they in a really bad spot? And I don't think they are, because if you really want to move, it's a chance to get something done. And there's opportunities to then make it all happen before the new year comes around, and there's a lot of comfort in that, and knowing that you can then just spend the second half of December or whatever it is, knowing your plans are set.
And we always I always mention micro markets, but little things that are happening, whether it's condos, we talked earlier about different price points that are going. You could have like listings that are perfect for a downsizer, but the houses aren't selling. Mm-hmm. It's really contingent on that market. So I mean that can affect things too, right? Of when is that time going to be? If if you start noticing that you've got in your back pocket some people that are waiting to list their place,
right?
But they're just waiting to see what happens, and all of a sudden you start to see houses going, and you're like, crap, this place would be perfect. We need to seize the day, so to speak.
Well, and I think Jared mentioned earlier, I forgot what he said about how there's less inventory, right? And so it's stale. Like there's not so much to choose from.
Yeah.
So if I'm giving a seller advice too, if you maybe will be the good listing,
yeah,
like there's some value in being on the market for that, because you're going to stand out in a real enhanced way if you're the good listing. And that goes to what I think about with buyers. So we're talking about like this, the listings that are on the market are there because the sellers really do want to sell.
Right.
Right. Now, I also tell sellers that time of year, don't expect a lot of showings.
Right.
Because the buyers are checked out and they're thinking about other things in their personal life and they're not thinking about a move. But keep in mind, the buyers who are looking, they are not kicking tires.
Right. So each individual showing is actually higher value.
Yeah, there's a much higher probability. Like I say, as a rough number, 30% of the showings you get on your home when you're listed are people who are not ready to buy right now.
Yeah.
They're sort of just getting started.
Yeah, they're doing research, or they are the neighbor, or
Those people don't look
right
over the winter season. So the showings you get are...
those people are hibernating.
Yeah, so I think you get a lot more qualified buyers. And those people, if they see the right thing that they want, they're looking because they want to buy.
Right.
So they're going to pull the trigger. They're going to do something. And that's why I'm talking about that one. I always remember the deal I did on December 23rd. Still had this listing on. It was at a good price. Somebody went and saw it. They made an offer. And I'm like, no, you guys are here because you like it. We got something done. Couldn't believe it was all done. And then subject removal was something like December 30th or 31st. It was so weird to have to work through all there. But the right buyer, the right product, all the rest of it, it can all work out. Right.
Okay.
So is there like some advice here other than maybe it's slow, but maybe it won't be slow, but maybe the spring is better?
Well, I think it's not. I think the advice is probably that it's not hopeless. It's not a time to definitively not list. But I do agree with Matt that the people who are listing probably have a reason. And
don't expect like 24 people at your opens.
I am a little nervous. Like the people who are on the fence waiting for next year, I think the jury's still out on whether things will be better or worse.
Yeah, I'd rather see them sell now and buy something that's out there, right? So that's always the hang up now for like what's the advice here, Jeremy? Your question is if you're planning to sell, if you can see something that works on the other end, wherever you're moving to, if it's in town or out of town, then you do it now. You just have to have an option for where to go. That's the problem come December 14th, is if I sell my place, what do I do? Because if there isn't a listing out there that I love right now, like I'm stuck. There's no new inventory from December 14th to January 3rd.
And January could be slow too for
it could, yeah. Then you get the little trickle in for the first 2 weeks of January, and then everybody accepts that it's time, and then it comes on. So that's really the only hesitation for a seller. Like you gotta know where you're going. I've had some of them where they list that time of year. They're like, oh no, I'm getting a job transfer, so it's fine. Right. We're going across the country. We're going to rent for 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is. So just liquidate and get me moving. That's fine. It's I got 3 condos out here that I like right now that I could buy. Just sell this, and we'll be able to buy one of them. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe do a few practice tours. Be that 30% who's not ready to buy for the showing, because you know pretty quick. Like if you're going out with a buyer and everything they look at, they're like, I could see myself living here. You're probably going to be fine. But if you're going out and you don't like anything, that could be problematic.
Yeah, don't put yourself in a corner, right?
The amazing one isn't probably just around around the bend.
And I don't want buyers to think that everything's going to be a smoking deal. But you don't have to compete nearly as much. Sometimes a really good listing comes on and the other buyers aren't paying attention, and you can sneak a good property. Yeah, without having to compete, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of good opportunity in different ways. It really depends on your objective.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well. Unless do you guys have anything else you wanted to add to that, or
do we want to bet a shawarma lunch on the spring market's going to be fantastic?
I will take that bet. So what you're going to bet that it is going to be fantastic?
What's the metric? I picked it last time.
So right now, I think sales in New West are 20-ish. Do we want to do percentage selling?
Let's do days on market.
What episode was the bet, Matt?
I think it was that was a tricky one because we just threw that in there somewhere.
Yeah. So yeah,
sales ratio for
missed by
attached
one.
is like 20, and we're almost single digit for detached for New West.
Okay, so a traditional market over 20% is a smoking hot market, but that isn't fair because we're still over 20%, but we're just moving in the wrong direction. Let's talk condos and townhouses because I don't think you want to take the bet if it's including houses.
Or it's too hard to predict.
Okay, so condos and townhouses, I will buy you lunch if in April they are over 30% sales ratio. So calculated by the end of April.
Over.
Is that a fair bet?
End of April.
Yeah.
What if we do over 20% end of February?
25.
Matt?
Well, Jeff's right. Like we're already pretty much over 20
Yeah,
now.
we're at like 22 right now.
That's why I was trying to bring the months back early in the year in case it's a slow burn.
You're trying to trick me. Okay, well, why don't you think about that? Why don't we tell a story and you can think about what you want to do for your bet?
It's story time with Jer.
Great story. Compelling and rich.
It's not always my story?
No, it's not always your story. What if Matt has an awesome story to tell?
Well, he can tell it to me or write it down and I will paraphrase.
This is Multiple Offers, a real estate show.
I was shooting a listing video yesterday, and PJ, my cameraman, got really excited because he wanted to shoot a time lapse of the listing. So he's pointing it. The camera kind of is looking up at the townhouse, and you can see the sky in the background. And he's time lapsing it over 20 minutes, so it just looks like the clouds are whipping
zipping by.
So he goes outside. He sets his camera up. He's like, "I'm going to shoot this time lapse, and then we'll do the rest of the shoot when I'm done that." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I'm just in the condo, and like 2 seconds later, he comes back in. I'm like, "Did you finish your time lapse, Peach?" And PJ's a really good buddy of mine.
Hold on a second. PJ's already an abbreviated name. I don't think you can call him Peach.
No, I call him Peach. Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
Peach and I were roommates for a while, but
it was really just exhausting calling him PJ.
Yeah, PJ. No, you know why he got the name Peach? I can tell you. Because we had another friend named VJ, and it was actually like you wouldn't hear the difference, but then VJ became Vij, and then it became a problem again. So anyway, PJ comes back into the condo, and it's like 2 minutes later. I'm like, "Is your time lapse done?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Well, don't you got to be out there?" And he's like, "What's gonna happen? The camera's sitting there for 20 minutes. It's fine. We can talk about the shoot." So we're talking about the shoot. And then we get out on the balcony and we're going over it. And PJ's like looking over the balcony. I'm like, "What are you looking at?" He's like, "My camera's not there."
Yeah.
I'm like,
not surprised.
I'm like, "Yeah, your camera's not there." And it wasn't anything nefarious. He had set up his camera on a bunch of like they're doing some work in the building, like on the fences or something. They'd had like plates of wood on a parking spot, and he thought that was the perfect angle, so he put it there. And then they moved the wood and took his camera with them, so he had to go running down the street chasing these construction guys.
Did he get his camera back?
He did get his camera back. If you've ever met PJ, he's the most charismatic human being that's ever lived. I've never met somebody who doesn't love this man. So I mean, he had 3 construction worker best friends who were offering to help him by the end of it. I mean, he had BC Floor Plans photographer who also showed up at that time, subscribed to his YouTube channel before she left the photo shoot. And his YouTube channel is on like working with kids with special needs. Oh, I've talked to you. I've mentioned, what I'm blanking on what the name of his channel is. the Learning Project or the Awareness Module is the name of his channel. And like he had new subscribers just from hanging out doing this shoot. But anyway, instead of being a good friend and helping him chase down the camera, I just videotaped it on my cell phone of him running after them. And that was my...
How millennial of you.
But he got it.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Oh, yeah, he got it back.
Was it a nice camera or was it just a phone?
No, it's like a little PowerShot, like prosumer level camera. Yeah. It's a pretty sweet little thing. And he's got a cool gimbal that for the time shot will do the super slow move so that when you loop it all together that you've actually got like a tracking shot.
But the gimbal's probably worth more than the camera.
It's probably worth the same, I would think. Yeah. So anyway, that's my story. Have you figured out if you want to take my bet or not, Jer?
No.
No. Okay. Well,
compelling. Tune in next week. Do we have a question?
I do have a question.
Cool.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
How's that working out for you? What? Being clever?
Who knows where thoughts come from? They just appear.
You're listening to Multiple Offers, a real estate show.
So this question comes from a listener who is a brand new realtor who also works in our office.
No collusion.
No collusion. I had lunch with Eli, who's a brand new agent in our office.
Hi, Eli. Thanks for listening.
He just got he just got his license, and he actually mentioned that he's been listening to the show and that it's been really cool. So that was kind of fun.
That's awesome.
But he was asking me a bunch of questions about getting started in real estate, and I thought I would pass some of that on to you guys because he'll probably hear it, and it's just kind of interesting. So his big thing was, where should he be focusing his energy as a brand new agent who's doing it on his own? So he doesn't have a team like kind of some of the models we talked about in the Denny episode he doesn't have a mentor, somebody who's specifically kind of guiding him and helping him generate leads. So he's thinking about open houses. He's thinking about door knocking, cold calling, all of it. What advice would you guys give to Eli?
Don't door knock.
I agree with that.
Don't do it.
It breaks my rule of don't do things you don't want done to you.
It's a very Christian rule.
Is that a Christian rule?
It sounds like it.
Christian house rules?
I mean, it starts with you got to know enough to be dangerous. Don't bother knocking on doors if you don't have any knowledge to share with those people.
Yeah.
Don't just hope that they're just going to open the door and say, yeah, list my house.
Right.
Like you got to know something.
Yeah.
So you have to build your knowledge base. You can't expect, business to necessarily just sort of fall in your lap, but you've got to work just to learn.
Do you remember where your first deal came from? This is for both of you. That wasn't like Matt, you were working under Jerry.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first deal that you generated the lead, that it had nothing to do with Jerry?
No, I don't.
Okay.
It was all...
It got blurry?
It was very, very blurry. Like the second or third day I was working with him, he was like, hey, I met these people at an open house on the weekend, and I told them they're going to work with you.
Yeah.
And then I was working with them.
Yeah.
Like we'd been partners for like 3 days.
Right.
So then I call him up and I'm like, hey, Rob. And Rob was one of my very first clients.
Yeah.
And I've done like 8 transactions with Rob since, and he sends me referrals and all the rest of it. He's one of my very best clients.
Nice.
And just an all-around good family. Everybody, good people. But so that's why I remember that one. But so much of it was coming from the team. My job was just to fill all the hours and do all the work. It wasn't really to get the leads.
Right.
Jerry's name was getting all the leads. I was just supposed to do something with them.
And a lot of the stuff you guys generated got phased out because Jerry phased himself out. Like some of the farming, which if the listeners don't know, farming in real estate is junk mail.
Not necessarily.
I know it's not junk mail, but
no, but the idea isn't just to mail people's houses when we're talking about farming. It's to choose a very localized area and say, I want to be known in this area.
But pieces of mail is a large component of that strategy.
Well, it could be lots of different angles. It could be creating a community group on Facebook if people still use that. You could you could just choose open houses that are within that neighborhood to get your sign out there.
Oh, that's interesting. I would not consider open houses
part of your farming. I mean, it's
part
about
of farming.
exposure.
It makes sense what you're saying, but
exposure
it just
within that community.
I
right?
wouldn't think it would make sense to me to do open houses in a farm if farming was part of my strategy. But open houses feel like a separate beast.
Farming always, it feels like in our context, like it's marketing efforts.
It's just consistent marketing in a very, very specific area.
Okay. Anyway, way back to my point is there's probably a bit of I don't know where Jerry ends and Matt begins with the farming efforts, because Jerry phased himself out of that, and you guys seem to pretty seamlessly then kind of shift that.
It was a
right?
3 to 4 year transition.
Yeah.
Where it was like 1 year it was Jerry and Matt, and then the next year it was Matt and Jerry, and then the next year,
a minute.
and the next year it was a little more Matt and a little less Jerry.
Jerry's picture's getting a little smaller.
I don't think any new agent should be really worrying too much about farming or flyers. Like, there's enough stuff to pay for, and you don't know where your paycheck's coming from next, when, if.
Yeah.
To throw on another couple grand worth of bills every month.
Yeah.
For a farm, it just seems like it's not the best idea to do right away.
And something, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, because I am not a farmer. That's not how I've built my business.
But your dad is.
Literally. Farming takes a long time to pay off, right? Like, it's not like you send a community 2 newsletters and all of a sudden you're getting listings.
If you farm by newsletter, it can take a long time. Those ambitious people who know enough to be dangerous and want to just knock on doors can convert a farm very, very quickly. Now, you got to have your feet on the street. You got to, just bust your tail doing it.
Yeah.
You got to have a lot of guts to stand out there at those doors and have a lot of doors closed in your face. And then when somebody does want to talk to you, you have to know enough to prove to them. So going back to Eli's original question is you need to find a way to learn. And it's hard to learn if you're not doing any business.
Right.
So you need to go to open houses. You need to shadow people and ask them if you can just be at their open house and just be around and just hear them talk. You need to be going on a realtor tour. So, a lot of different regions do a tour of new listings every week. That's kind of winding down because of the seasonality of things now, and there's fewer new listings. But you just need to go and see that product.
Tour is fantastic.
Hear the other realtors talk about it. Hear the good things they say, the bad things they say, and just try to take it all in. But any new person, you got to learn. And if you don't have a mentor to teach you and you're not doing business, you can't just keep waiting for the phone to ring to learn. You got to force yourself into a situation where you're going to be exposed to real estate.
I thought our office there was like a thing for new agents that they need to be mentored under somebody, but I think that wasn't necessarily the case.
They do. I think they do for sure. I think Eli and a lot of other new agents are just trying to take it all in, right? It's so overwhelming at the start. So, Jerry, you were saying farming isn't the route you'd go down. What would be if you could only pick one thing to do at the start, what would it be?
I think open house, if there's really just one thing.
Yeah.
Like I haven't quit my other job yet.
Yeah.
It would be 4 open houses a weekend.
Yeah.
And I would say try and be deliberate about it. Like maybe have an idea in your head of where you want to work, or what type of inventory, or what type of maybe even demographic that you think would respond to your style.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that you can't be a luxury specialist out the gates.
Yeah, don't. It's not like none of us haven't thought about that. I'm just not going to sell cheap condos. But you can be intentional, and you can, like, if you want to pick. I mean, I picked a small neighborhood, like the Key when I first decided to start being more New Westminster focused. I took a very small neighborhood and tried to get open houses from other agents in my office. It helps being at an office that actually has inventory in those neighborhoods and in those areas, so that you could work them for the other agents. If you're at an office somewhere doesn't have inventory in the area that you want to work by your house or something for whatever reason, that you're probably setting yourself up for failure. Unless you're just a crazy, charismatic, good salesperson who can just close anybody. And you can just, like, you hear that term, fake it until you make it. If you're one of those guys who can do that, then fill your boots, that's fine. But I would find a neighborhood, find a zone.
As the consumer gets more knowledge, which they are getting more and more knowledge, fake it till you make it.
They'll see right past you.
I think it's so garbage. The one piece of advice I would hit on that you guys haven't touched on yet, and this won't work for everybody because I decided to work in the community that I grew up in, is when I got my real estate license, I contacted everybody I knew. from like my graduating class in high school, anything I'd done anybody with, I tried to get as many people as possible. And with Instagram and Facebook and all that, it's really easy to actually send them messages now. It's easier than when I did it. And I just tried to have coffee with anybody who I was like, oh, I like reconnect with. And I wasn't there saying, hey, be my realtor, but I wanted to learn about what they were up to now. And I wanted to tell them about how excited I was that I got my real estate license. And would it be okay if I, a few times a year I send out a bit of real estate info? Can I put you on the list? And I mean, I still get business from those people that I
I definitely did that too when I started. It was recommended by the training person or whatever at the office I was at, but it didn't come natural. It felt a little bit superficial. Just didn't quite feel like if I haven't talked to this person in a while and all of a sudden like it's because I need something. It's like
and that
it had that. It felt just a bit dirty, but it's kind of necessary. I mean, you need when you start, you need. Like if it wasn't for family and friends putting their trust in me when I first started, I probably wouldn't,
Well, and for that to not feel dirty, I think you have to actually care. Like you have to really want to catch up with that person that you contacted, and you have to genuinely be curious about what they've been doing with their life and what they've done. And I usually made a joke about the real estate part. Like I'd be like, look, I'm doing this. I send out a bit of propaganda. Like I
have a business card.
Yeah, totally, right? Like
I'm a big deal.
Yeah, like, and I don't know. I never felt dirty about it at all. But I genuinely did want to know what they were doing and to catch up. Like the people I was contacting with were people I was like, oh, I wish I'd stayed in touch with these people.
Yeah. I feel guilty just having a Facebook account.
Yeah, that's weird.
I have no business being on this platform.
Well, any last minute advice for Eli before we wrap this up?
Shadow somebody. Be careful. I have heard from other agents about other like newer agents that they were sold an idea that there was going to be all this support and help from an office, and then they didn't quite feel that way. This is it's not from our office or anything, but I'm just talking about other offices.
Yeah, you're going to get yourself fired here. What's happening?
But you could, you might not. You might need to talk to your broker about putting you in touch with the right person at the office, because some people I've heard stories. You ask people and then they just all of a sudden they're like, we're competition. And obviously we live in a very collaborative office, but there's that
their agents will try and take advantage of the free labor.
And that's the other side is signing up for bad deals. I would say new agents should just be cautious of that, because next thing you know, that guy who's just helping you fill out that contract's like, oh yeah, by the way, like I'll be taking 50% of that deal, and you need every penny of that. You just be careful, because that was some scenarios that I was hearing from some newer agents who was like, that's really really crappy that happened, because doesn't seem fair to me. So be wary.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to get a hold of Matt or Jeremy, you can find them at thenewwestguys.com. And if you'd like to reach out to me, Geoff McLennan, I am at realestatennewwest.com. If you've been enjoying this, please take a second and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It helps us get out to more and more people. And please come back next week. I think we're going to be talking about stratas.
So I'm just wondering your guys' thoughts on, because I don't know the answer to this, but I've been taking my kid to swimming lessons, which isn't really swimming lessons because she's a year and a half old.
What are her special skills?
Her special powers are when I blow in her face, she immediately closes her eyes and her mouth, and I dunk her head underwater.
Oh, my kid was defective. Asher didn't do that. I know the kids are supposed to do that, but he totally didn't do that.
We didn't do any of that stuff. Yeah, it's not swimming lessons. It's go dunk your kid in the cold water and see how much they hate you.
So I will say, though, that as a kid who was terrified of the water until I was like 10 years old, I see the value in getting kids in the water right away.
No, but you can take them when they're like 2.5. You don't have to do it when they're 3 months old.
Yeah, and that's the old weird kid in the class. All the babies are like, why is this like 3-year-old in my baby class?
My kid dunked her head first out of all 5 kids in that class. So
he said, hey,
there.
Hey, Cammie, do you mind? You're going to have to put your head underwater here, and I'm going to move you across. You okay doing that? Yeah, that sounds good. Sure. Okay. Let's. So what do you do? Like, I'm going to blow in your face. Oh, okay. Just tell me when you're going to do it. Okay. Whereas I have to, I need to use the element of surprise to get her head underwater. So anyways, back to my question. So is there like a temperature that pools have to be at? Like legally?
For babies? Or for...
What I'm getting at is CGP it's like a lake.
So cold.
It's freezing cold in there.
In the kiddie pool or in the main section?
The whole main pool.
No, the teaching pool.
The teaching pool.
Have you been to CGP?
Yeah, I was a Hayek.
No, but anyway, it's cold.
Canada Games pool is probably got to be one of the coldest indoor pools.
The trick is
in all of Canada.
I think you're right.
Swim and then you warm up.
No, it's cold. Every kid comes out of those lessons blue.
My kid's turning blue. She's staring at her lips.
Is this a thing that I just don't
shaking.
know about? Like, is this a total issue with Canada Games?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not like doing this to be interesting for the podcast. I have no.
You don't know, Jeff.
No, I have no knowledge.
Jeff hasn't been a Hayek for years.
Well, no, of course not.
I dare you to just go onto one of your little Facebook moms groups and just put CGP cold ?
I'll have to get Rachel to do that because I'm not allowed in a mom's group. But okay.
Yeah, cold ? And you are going to get bombarded. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for the new pool.
I'm going to put it in the New West Dads group right now, and we'll just see.
It is so cold. It is ridiculous. But
my other question that I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Oh, that wasn't you.
was, and I just wanted to get Jeff and Matt's opinion. Do we want the extra lanes, or do we want the kiddie ducky lazy river pool?
I abstain.
You can't abstain.
It's a contentious issue, and I don't swim enough in either capacity to need to voice an opinion. I think the people who use the pool should have their opinion. I don't use the pool. My kids had their lessons. They know the basics of swimming. We swim at the lake now.
Everybody keeps saying lazy river, and I don't think I have a clear idea of what that is.
Well, as a Hayek, you default. You have to say extra lanes.
Yeah.
I have to say extra lanes. As maybe the worst Hayek that ever swam in Canada Games pool.
But they let you stick around and pay your fees every year.
Yeah, I was a terrible swimmer. Or a terrible Hayek. I came in last in all my competitions.
Oh.
But then I'd swim against my friends, and I'd be faster than them. And I'd be like, oh, cool. So, what is this lazy river? And why is everybody always
It's like a
talking
river.
about it?
It's, I don't know how wide. 6 feet wide? 8 feet wide?
Okay.
Anyways, it just snakes around. It's got a bit of a current. You can kind of go in and out, and it's got like little shower thingies, and there's just little turbulent areas.
Pool, or
it's off to the side.
It's its own thing. It's like going for like a tube ride down like a...
Yeah, so you can go chill on a floaty.
Why is this an either or thing? It takes up the space.
There's only enough room for
either
or.
Either or. Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody loves the lazy river at Edmonds Pool.
Loves it. They drop like a couple thousand rubber duckies in it, and so the whole thing's just kids love it, and it's warm.
Yeah.
And it just looks like something that everybody, like adults, everyone's in it. It's not even just children. It's just a awesome, fun time thing to do.
Yeah.
Unlike a boring lane that you use for nothing.
Well, you don't use it for nothing.
It's for swimming.
One person gets to go back and forth in it.
No, you can fit like 20 people in a lane. You switch. You go on the right side. It's like driving in a car. Like within a lane, you go both directions.
If I was in a lane and you started coming in and swimming in my lane, I might find that upsetting.
Okay, well, you're doing it wrong.
This is my lane.
You're getting possessive about the lane.
So
I put my phone wallet keys on the end of the wharf at the pool, and I go in and I do my swimming, and that's like clearly that's my lane. Yeah. You stay out of it.
So that's not how it works. I don't swim, and I've never really. What?
We already have a reaction to help me settle an argument. Canada Games pool too cold. So Atlin writes, for younger kids and just hanging around, yes. However, it is ideal for swimming laps.
Go back to work. Should be working. 2:30 in the afternoon on a...
Let me tell you something about swimming laps. I don't swim laps. I've never swam laps. But when I went to UBC, I didn't live in residence, and I needed a warm place out of the rain to study, and a lot of people would go to the pool. That's where you go. There was a set of bleachers up above the pool. So I've seen thousands of people swim laps, and you can fit tons of people in one lane. You swim on the right side next to the buoys. You go along, you turn around, you go back, and you just cross paths with each other. And the people who swim lanes, they do this seamlessly.
Yeah,
and they get progressive. The lanes get progressively faster as you sort of move across the lanes. Like if there's 5 or 6 lanes, the slowest people go in the slowest lane.
So you're saying you can get 5 or 6 people in a lane?
Well, they're not all at the same spot in the lane.
No, I'm saying how many people we get an extra lane at CGP, and you know where I'm going with this. How many people do you think you can get in a lane?
Well, but what does it bring to the pool if you can hold a competition there and have an extra lane for the event?
You need a minimum number of lanes to have a competition. That's the argument here, why they want more lanes. It's not for recreational swimmers. It's for competition.
And this is the origin of Canada. It was for the Canada Games. Like it was supposed to be a competition pool. That was the whole idea of it to begin with. Not that means that has to be it forever.
But that's why you need the lanes. It's not for the recreational swimmer to be like, oh, I need more lanes. It's to have competition. You can always squeeze people in, like as doing their fitness into the number of lanes that are there.
Yeah.
You might have to overtake people sometimes and you work it out, but you can do that. If you want to have a competition pool, that's another thing. Now, I look at a competition pool, not being a swimmer, and I go, okay, well, what's the economic benefit of this? Like, why are we saying this is a good thing for New West? Because if we have a swim club and they can train and they can go compete somewhere else, that's good enough. If we need to host an event, why are we hosting an event? Should be for economic benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine bringing people to the New West. The only problem is we only have one hotel in New West, and I don't know if that's where the competition people stay. So if they're not staying in New West and they're staying at a hotel outside of New West, then they're not really bringing any economic benefit to New West.
So Matt is pro ducky swim.
No, I'm indifferent.
No, Matt, don't put Matt in a corner. Nobody puts Matt in a corner.
I don't want the Hayek people to hate me, but I'm just saying, like, if you're doing it because you want to have an event, and that's great, you're proud of what you do.
Yeah.
But as a resident of New West, like, what do you bring in?
I hope Rosie becomes a Hayek, and one day is like, Dad, if it wasn't for you always complaining, we would have had a competition level pool.
I'll be cursing the whole way to Coquitlam or Burnaby for swim meets.